You once said the most dangerous person is one who is articulate.
By dangerous, that implies I should be ready to threaten someone, to hurt somebody.
No, you should be capable of it. But that doesn't mean you should use it. People who teach martial arts know this full well, right? If you learn a martial art, you learn to be dangerous.
Right, like if we move beyond the boundaries of civil discourse, we know what the next step is. For example, there's a woman in Toronto who's organizing this movement, let's say, against me, and she managed to organize quite effectively. She compared us to Nazis, for example, which, publicly, using the swastika.
Well, women manifest aggression towards themselves and to others, but they don't use lethal force. They don't use physical force the same way men do.
I'm defenseless against that kind of female insanity because the techniques that I would use against a man who is employing those tactics are forbidden to me.
So do it some other way. What other channels are there other than physical aggression if you're going to be aggressive?
If the man is offensive enough and crazy enough, the reaction becomes physical right away, or at least the threat is there.
People look at aggressive and antisocial behavior, and in men it tends to take the form of outright physical aggression.
That's forbidden in discourse with women.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Well, you go after people verbally. You go after them with innuendo and gossip and reputation destruction. And that's how it works.
If it's a civilized discussion, you can signal a tiny increase in the potential for that violence by frowning, by changing your voice tone. So you just have to hint at it.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either you're a Christian or you're not.
I won't talk to you if you're a smartass.
Oh,
That's one of the things that I don't see so characteristic of linguistic interactions between women. Then you're talking to someone to whom you have absolutely no respect.
Look, women have to express aggression somehow unless you're willing to say that they're not aggressive. They tend not to do it physically. Not to the degree men do, so they use other channels.
To be clear, that you think that's predominantly a female modus operandi?
aren't I? But you're really quite nothing, right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done. The reason I know that is because the parameters for my resistance are quite well defined, which is we talk, we argue, we push, and then it becomes physical.
Okay, I'm done with him.
And then it becomes physical.
Ha! Gay!
What would you recommend to a one who wants to learn to speak in a more articulate manner?
Well, articulate is an interesting word, because if your joints are articulated, and that means you can do things with them.
There are fights, there are battles, and there are bloody wars. This is one of the bloodiest wars I have ever seen in my commentating career. Hats off to both of these ladies, and it will go the distance.
Because they're articulated, right? They're not one solid, vague mass. They're differentiated. And someone who's graceful is articulated. Speech is a form of articulation in that manner because the act of speech itself is extremely complicated. It's a very complicated motor activity, right? It's a very complicated action to dance with your tongue, let's say.
So that which you do not understand, which is something that you can conceptualize as that which has not yet been made habitable world, has an intrinsic meaning. Now the question is whether the fundamental stuff of the world is that meaningful unknown or something material. You can make the case that what we recognize as material is actually a pragmatic reconceptualization of the meaning, of the ambivalent meaning of the unknowable. Now I know that's hard. That's a hard concept, but imagine, you see, it depends on whether or not you believe that our descriptions of material reality.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Why is the feminine represented as chaos? Well, let's throw something back at your feminist friends. Why is the masculine represented as order by feminists? I mean, let's address that question initially. So it seems to be a foregone conclusion that the patriarchy is represented with masculine symbols, and it seems equally a foregone conclusion that the patriarchy is order. So if the masculine symbolism is used by feminists themselves to represent order, what is left for the feminine to be represented by? Order? Well, that's already taken. And the reason your feminist friends object to it is, well, I would say fundamentally there's two reasons. Is they object to everything and they don't understand it and they don't notice their own behavior. So why don't you ask them, well, why is the masculine represented as order? And then there's a deeper answer too, which is, well, in some sense, I don't know. It's not me that's doing the representing. I mean, So we see things the same way. Well, that's why we can talk. I mean, not exactly the same way, because then we'd have nothing to talk about. But roughly speaking, we have a bedrock of agreement. That's the Bible, by the way.
I just figured this out this week.
Stop it. Get some help.
You know, our whole culture is based on the idea of the supremacy of the word. Our whole culture is based on the idea that it is the word itself that extracts habitable order from chaos and possibility. And the reason our culture is predicated on that is because it's a deep truth. And to the degree that our culture actually embodies that, it works. So it's a great thing to be articulate.
Well, you talk me into it, then you talk me out of it, because you know what?
You're out on the streets. Someone approaches you and asks you for a cigarette, and he gets you with a fierce, underhand rocket up through the chin. That's something that you don't want to happen to you. I'm going to show you how to do it.
Young men who are striving forward, and to let them know in no uncertain terms that if they want to make themselves into forces to be contended with, that there's no surer route to that than an exceptional poetic literacy. Now, it's not like young people don't have an intuition of this. There are reasons they admire rap musicians, for example, who are often extraordinarily articulate in their performance and their capacity for spontaneous poetic utterance.
Well, I wrote this song for the Christian youth. I want to teach kids the Christian truth. If you want to reach those kids on the street, then you gotta do a rap to a hip-hop beat. So I gave my sermon an urban kick. My rhymes are fly, my beats are sick. My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's because Jesus Christ is my...
The greatest people I've met, including great warriors, you might say, are great in no small part because they're articulate. I know a former special services, special operations soldier, Jocko Willink. Some of you might know about Jocko. He's got a pretty decent online following, and you know, he's about 4 feet wide and about 3 feet thick, and he's one tough son of a bitch. I'll tell you, you don't want to mess with him.
When men are talking to each other in any serious manner, that underlying threat of physicality is always there, especially if it's a real conversation, and it keeps the thing civilized to some degree.
Yeah!
By paying attention to what you say, that's a good start. And what do I mean by that? I mean, pay attention to what you say. So you can think of this as an analogy.
So imagine that you're trying to walk across a swamp, and the swamp is murky. But you know there's a path. You know there's a path of stone under the water, but it twists and moves. And if you stay on the path, you won't drown. The crocodiles in the swamp won't devour you. And as you walk forward, you can feel with your next step where the stone might be. And then you feel it's solid, then you take that step, and then you do the same thing with your foot again. You search, and you find out what's solid, and you step on it, and you move forward.
In that manner, that's what you do with your words. It's the same thing. You feel, and you feel, is this the right word? Is the fact that I'm uttering it putting me together and making me intact and stronger, or is it tearing me apart and making me dissolute and weak?
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
And more than that, I would say also as compelling and interesting, although that can be gamed, but the entire combination that emerges out of the domain of articulate communication can't be gamed. It's not easily.
Billy Bixby was rather surprised when he woke up one morning and found a dragon in his room. It was a small dragon, about the size of a kitten. Well, so let's delve into the idea of dragon again. Well, how many dragons have you overcome in your life?
I'm not interested in dragons. I'm interested in reality.
Okay, so I read a book a while back that described the biological reality of the dragon. Say, well, there's no such thing as a dragon. It's like, okay, is there such a thing as a predator? Well, that's a meta category. What's the category of predator? Bear, eagle if you're a primate. Fire? Is fire a predator? It's complicated because a fire kills you. Okay, so is there a worse predator than serpentine, flying, fire-breathing reptile? So in what way, if predator is real, in what way isn't dragon real? So the book's title is There's No Such Thing as a Dragon. And whether or not something is real depends to some degree on your level of analysis. Well, it's real in the way that an abstraction is real. It's real in the way that the word predator or danger is real, right? Because there's many diverse phenomena that are aggregated together in the notion, the conceptual notion of, say, predator or danger, but that has very little to do with the reality of the concept. Dragon is as real as predator, let's put it that way, because the dragon really stands for everything that lurks in the unknown as such. And everything would be the danger that's part and parcel of the unknown, which is the place that the predators aggregate, let's say, but also the promise. So out in the unknown, which is the land of dragons, there are terrible dangers and great benefit, hence the treasure that's associated with the dragon. And the dragon contact story is,
you feel your way. Much of what I said actually made me feel weak. I didn't know why exactly, but sometimes some of the things I said didn't have that effect. They weren't accompanied by a sense of shame, let's say. Practice merely saying what you believe to be true. And you can write about what you think about the problems that obsess you. And you can become articulate as a consequence. And there'll be nothing about that that isn't the adventure of your life.